Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffery L. Boney here for another hot edition of Real Talk Junkies Live. So glad that you tuned in on today. Make sure you share the link with all your friends, family, foes, enemies. It don't matter. They need to tune in today. Another hot show, another hot guest, and plenty of hot topics. Make sure you check out the Forward Times fan page, as well as make sure you check out the website, forwardtimes.com. That's www.forwardtimes.com to check out the latest news in and about the Black community. Also, make sure you engage with me, jefferylboney.com. That's www.jefferylboney.com. Make sure you pick up the latest book, Don't Argue With Me, a no-nonsense approach to the issues in the Black community. And we're going to definitely get involved and engaged. Make sure you chime in on the chat. Make sure you ask your questions, make your comments. This is an engaging show. And of course, this show would mean nothing without the RTJs. That's you, the Real Talk Junkie. So let's get into it real quick, man. Joining me today, I'm telling you, this is my absolute honor to have this person as my guest today. This man is a legend, not only in the greater Houston area, but across the globe, particularly in the area of sports. But he's covered the gamut of a lot of things, but he is best known for his contributions to the area of sports as a journalist, as a top-notch journalist. He was just recently, 2 years ago, inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, and he's now up for consideration for the Houston Astros Hall of Fame as well, as far as radio and broadcast journalism. Man, joining me today, he's interviewed everybody. He's interviewed Satchel Paige. He's interviewed Muhammad Ali. He was at the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire. He's interviewed Hank Aaron and countless others. He is basically, he needs no introduction, but introducing to some of you who may not know him is none other than the legendary Ralph Cooper. Let's give it up for Ralph Cooper, y'all. Let's go. Real Talk Junkies, baby. Come on. Yeah, man. Program. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. I didn't know you were going to have on black. I wear my black shoes. but these are the Muhammad Ali shoes.
Those are Muhammad
Ali kickers, so I want you to get a good look at them.
I got you, man. I got you.
They're comfortable, too.
I know they
Ali
are.
was proud of them, yeah.
So come on, man. You've been doing this for over 50 years.
Right.
But like right here. 50 years. Yeah, I know you started right here at the Forward Times.
This was the printing area. The printing press was in here.
Yeah.
Man, you all are big time now. This was the printing press. I'm serious. This was where they printed the newspapers.
Yeah.
The Forward Times, the Cougars, and sales papers, and all of that kind of stuff. It was really intimidating for somebody about 19 years old at that time.
Yeah.
To come in here and ask for a job.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because you mentioned some things that a lot of people don't know. The Forward Times Publishing Company not only produced the actual Forward Times newspaper, which was a weekly publication, but it also printed many other big jobs in the area, including the University of Houston Daily Cougar every day.
Right. And I didn't know that until I came in here. But what happened was the Forward Times had an ad in a newspaper where they were looking for reporters. Mm-hmm. So I called and they set me up an appointment. Mm-hmm. I had never met Julius Carter, Barry Shields, and Sonny Wells. Those were the three people that interviewed me, right? Mm-hmm. So they asked me what I wanted to do. I told them I wanted to write sports. They told me they already had great sports writers.
Now, how old were you at this time?
Right at 19, 20 years old. I was about to be 20.
Okay.
And they asked me what I wanted to do to sports. They had Bud Johnson. They had Joe Booker. They had Donald Dixon. They had C-Boy Vaughn. They told me they had all these great people in sports. They were covering everything. So they said, well, we'll try to work you in sports, but we got the perfect job for you. You got so the perfect job. Now listen to this, and it parlayed Ralph Cooper to who I became.
Yeah,
my job was to go to the courthouses 3 times a week.
Okay,
the courthouses or the jails, and find out what was going on. Write about anything I wanted to write about that happened in the courts, any kind of cases, murder, thievery, whatever, divorces, whatever I wanted to write about. And I didn't really realize what I was. It was like you never had anybody to take you there. You went there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you got on the job training, and then
real time.
Oh yes, and so I didn't really realize how impactful it was until several young men had been involved in rapes. And I had made my mind up I was going to use a tape recorder because that way I felt people would feel more comfortable with you with a tape recorder at that time. Something that's obsolete really now.
Right.
So,
well, now we use our phones. And stuff
right,
to record stuff.
yeah, right. So I go down and what this detective called me at home. I had got a relationship that they had these rape suspects, and did I want to interview them? So I didn't know the laws at that time either. And the laws were not like they are now.
Right.
So I go down with my tape recorder. So sure enough, I interviewed 6 or 7 of them.
Now these are rape suspects.
Right. To me,
yeah,
they
yeah,
were suspects.
Yeah, right.
From 16 to about 22, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Black.
All black.
All of them confessed to me on the tape
that they did it.
Yeah, because I asked, my thing was, why would you rape somebody? And they explained what it was. It was like a thing among them, you know. So about 2 days later, I get a subpoena up here.
Down
from the courthouse. They wanted Mr. Shields, Barry Shields told me he was the managing editor. They wanted my tapes. They took my tapes.
Wow.
Which now meant, and I interviewed all these guys with no lawyer. They have no lawyer. And I'm in the cell with them.
Wow.
And then I didn't realize the impact of it until, like I say later on, you know, how impactful this thing could be that you were getting into, the media.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, you know, so that's how I started. The Forward Time, answering an ad in the newspaper. Now, they offered, they said, we're going to take care of you. We got this nice, I had another job, but they said, we're gonna give you some gas money. So, but it was like $200 a month. But I got extra money if I wrote other stories, which I did.
$200 a month.
200, but it was an experience like never before had I seen anything like that.
Wow.
You know, one guy was up for they had him down for child support. Back child support.
At the court.
Yeah, he was about to get off. And the judge asked him one simple question. He had 2 or 3 kids. What is the name of your children?
And he didn't know. Oh man.
Jeffery, I mean, hey man, so you ran into all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And then it was about a year or so later, around 69, when they started letting me do sports. They didn't have anybody here that wanted to do the Astros.
Okay.
Seaboy, Bud Johnson, they didn't want to do the Astros.
Why? You know why?
They just didn't. They were not excited about baseball.
I got you.
And Joe Booker he would go out every once in a while, and they let me do the junior high schools, and that's how I got to become popular with the kids who were coming up in junior high, especially Ryan. I kind of adopted them and vice versa, and you grew up with all those kids.
Yeah,
and that's how it evolved.
So let's go back to kind of your entree into sports. Okay, so tell me about the first sports article, if you can recall back that far, that you actually covered and wrote. Well, you remember?
Yes, one of the first ones was on Jimmy Wynn and Don Wilson. Don Wilson they were still living then.
Don Wilson was the one that was murdered.
Well, he died at home in a garage accident, right? And he became like they both became like big brothers. They would come by and pick me up, take me out. I went out with them and all that kind of stuff. But those were the first 2 that
y'all weren't partying in it.
What? Well, I was learning. I was on the job training from pros, from real pros who were respected, especially in the Black community.
Right.
They were really respected in these night spots in the Black community, well, everywhere in the Black community. Yeah. Even they did free clinics and all that type of stuff. This was before J.R. came.
J.R. Rich.
But yeah, Joe Morgan was there too, but he was not. He was more low key than they were in a way. Yeah. But those were 2 of the first ones. But then I did Hank Aaron, I did Roberto Clemente, I did Satchel Paige, I did Dizzy Dean, I did Mickey Mantle, I did. I was thinking about Willie Stargell.
So how did you get access to these athletes, and what made them feel comfortable or want to? Because sometimes everybody don't have.
Well, the one thing I was Black. Being Black helped, and
really?
They trusted me.
Hold on, being Black helped because they were Black.
Yeah, and see, most people had ignored them when it came to interviewing them. And plus, the unique thing that helped me more than it, the tape recorder, which would lead to radio later on, because I had at that time, I wasn't thinking about any radio stuff.
So you went from putting people in jail with the tape recorder to
Yeah, and so you had access to the players. Like when the visiting teams came in on Friday,
yeah,
I would go early.
Okay.
And you could ask anybody you wanted to let you interview them. And in many cases, and then it helped knowing Jimmy Wynn and Don Wilson, but and Joe Morgan and Bob Watson and all those type guys, because they would tell the other guys on the other opposing teams that he's all right, because these other guys were writing. The white reporters, basically in newspaper, were writing stuff where I was taping it. That way you didn't have to interfere with them while they talked. You let them flow.
Yeah.
Because others trying to write down, hey, man,
Right.
you've been and lost the whole interview trying to write stuff.
Right.
When you could just put the mic in front of them and let them talk. So even, and nobody had interviewed Willie Mays here, one-on-one. See, I'm talking about one-on-ones. I'm not talking about in a group.
Yeah, like
I'm talking about one-on-one.
Like in the locker room.
I'm talking about, they'll tell you to go sit on the end of the bench, say the opposing team, say sit in the dugout. And when I get through running and stuff, I'll come by there, you can interview me. So the greatest, one of the greatest ones was Roberto Clemente, because at that time, even now, at that time, there were more Black Americans on the teams than Latin players.
Got it.
And he interviewed him. He said, "I'm like you." He pointed, "I'm like you, probably more blacker than you." I said, "How could you be?" He had been wherever he had been in the minors, and he came here from Puerto Rico, and they abused him. And he had been in the Dodge organization too, before the Dodgers didn't protect him, and Pittsburgh picked him up. But wherever he had been, and I forgot exactly where it was, they didn't treat him. Well, he was treated like us, is what he was saying.
Right.
Yeah. So you pick up all of that, and then I interviewed Willie Mays. Now, I got Willie Mays thanks to a lady who became a female friend. I didn't know the lady. So I'm behind the dugout. This is in the Astrodome. So I go up to Willie Mays and ask him for an interview. My back is turned to the stand. So he says, there's a lady, an usher back there. They wore usher outfits. They say, "Do you know her?" So I lied. I said, "Yeah." So he said, he was single then. He said, "Would you tell her that I would like to take her out to dinner?"
Yeah.
After the game, if that's possible, whatever. So I went up there.
Now she's working.
Yeah, she's a usher. One of the
at the Astrodome
back in the day.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to make
black,
sure.
Nice looking. So I go up there and I tell her the truth. I said, "Look here, man." She was a little bit older than I was. I said, "Look, I'm trying to get an interview with Willie Mays." I said, "You know him, though?" She said, "Yeah, that's number 24 down there." So I said, "Yeah." She said, so I told her, I said, "He would like to take you to dinner." I say, "I would like to interview him." So she said, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, he wanted me to give you his room number, the Marriott Hotel." So I gave her the room number. She took it. So as I get emotional about some of this stuff when I talk about it. So ignore that. No. So I give her his room number. And ironically, guess what the room number was? You never
24?
No, it's a famous radio station here in Houston.
Oh, 1230?
No.
1430?
102.
102.
Never forget the number. And this was before 102 had even been born.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So I gave her, I gave her his room number and everything at the Marriott. So she said, "Hold it a minute." So she walks away for a minute. She comes back and slides a piece of paper in my hand. She said, "That's my home number. Tell him to call me when he leaves the station and gets back to his room." So sure enough, I gave it to him. So he told me to go sit on the end of the bench, or go sit on the dugout, and when he gets through running, he's coming by to let me interview him, right? Yeah. So he comes by and I interview him. That's on a Friday. I didn't go back out there Saturday. So Sunday, when I'm out there, guess what? I'm back out there behind. See, at that time, you could stand behind the batting cage and watch the guys take batting practice. So these white reporters who thought they were above you at that time, right?
Yeah.
Because you're working for a black paper,
Right.
and you just
You still with the Forward Times?
Yeah, I'm still with. I'm working for the Forward Times. I'm black, and I'm young, and he don't really know what he's doing. The man comes by, Willie Mays comes by and say, "Hey, Ralph, how you doing?" which meant what?
Yeah, your status is you the man.
But what happened? He and like I said, the lady and I became friends later on. So that was some. You have moments like that also. So
Wow.
I got the interview with Willie Mays, and about 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes. It's in the Forward Time somewhere. I forgot where. What this is around 71 or 72.
Yeah.
It's in the Forward Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, at what point did you become the Ralph Cooper?
Probably, I was Ralph Cooper with the younger people.
Uh-huh.
This is what I try to tell younger people. You need to connect with the people your age first. Remember I told you about Ryan?
Yeah, middle school.
I was impactful on all the middle schools that were black and all the high schools, even white ones. There was a point, and we're dealing with basketball and football. Luther Booker, uh, Johnny B. Felder, James Bear Bryant, Coach Charlie Brown, Johnny Peoples, and all these great, Joe Washington over in Beaumont, Bubba Smith's father over in Beaumont, and all of these people, because you through the Forward Times and through early radio that I was in, KYOK then, the impact was just humongous. Yeah. And it started off with just 5 minutes twice a day. But I took the 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes, it's amazing what you can do if you do it right. So the 5 minutes a day, and I copied 2 people. You had what, 3 people, 4 people. I would drag my name out. I knew I didn't have a name. They knew me in Sunnyside and maybe Third Ward, but I didn't have a name, right? So I would drag my name out. I'm Ralph Cooper, Marvin Zimmer. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then I realized what Howard Cosell was doing on radio and how much information he got out. But then I had 2 blacks. You had Charlie Frazier, who just passed. He did sports on KYOK in the off season when he didn't play for the Oilers. I copied him, and I copied Jimmy Wynn, who did it for the Astros on KYOK when he wasn't playing. So I copied all these people and used a little bit of everything that they were doing, and it helped me get established. Because see, you didn't have anybody, and then you had to give them something to remember you by. Yeah. You had to make predictions. And not be afraid whichever way they were gonna fall. Yeah, whatever outcome. So you got to be known. That's how I got to be. Oh, yeah. You talk about this being emotional. Yeah. Telling these type of stories. Why? Why is it emotional? Yeah. Why? Well, because I had so much fun. Yeah. I miss the people. I'm thankful for all you new guys, but I think about it. You miss a Barry Shields, who was when I first started doing talk shows. I knew I wasn't ready to be in there by myself. So the first person I got to come with me was Barry Shields, who had forgotten more sports than I knew. Right. But I wasn't afraid to have him on the program with me because I knew he was playing the older people. I wasn't worried about the people my age at that time, but the older people. And if I forgot something or didn't know it, he was there with me. Yeah. So we did an hour on Saturdays on KYOK. And that came about I want to say thanks to 102. See, because KYOK and KCOH were dominating black radio before 102 came along with the FM deal. And as they lost listeners, they went to talk shows. And I would ask for one to do sports on. Yeah. And finally they gave me one. Now, were you weren't with KYOK at the time, or? Yeah, I was with I started doing the 5 minutes I told you. Yeah. Okay. Twice a day. Yeah. And then I did somebody else's show, or just like no, I had mine, Ralph Cooper Sports, for 5 minutes. Yeah, twice a day, Monday through Friday, which was huge because this was before 102. So if I couldn't get established before it changed, that was my fault. So I took that to another level, and I helped with the football games, and plus we did basketball games. They let me do high school basketball games, and I did Wheatley, all the HISD schools. But it got to the point where some of the people outside the HISD wanted me to do their games. But I had an agreement with Joe Tusa and Seaboy Vaughn that I would keep it where we just did HISD games. But when the playoffs came, Clear Lake, Bill Kruger, he couldn't wait to be on the radio. And we had this thing where Seaboy would, at the end of the games in the HISD, he would sing The Party's Over like Don Merritt back in the day. So we did a Clear Lake Wheatley game or somebody, Clear Lake and somebody, one Friday night in Hawthorne. And many of those people had never heard of the station before.
Yeah.
And when they lost, he sung that song, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know what happened. They started calling the radio station in the middle of the night. Why is this guy doing us like that?
Right.
Somebody told me, hey, he's been doing that all season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just happen to be the losing team.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what happened,
Wow.
So I get emotional because I remember all the people that helped me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't have but about 2 or 3 years under Mr. Carter here, who was a genius. But I had Sonny Wells and Barry Shields. And I had Seaboy Vaughn, who was a genius. He put on the first Battle of the Bands. So everybody don't know, the first Battle of the Bands in Houston was a high school deal put on by Artie Seaboy Vaughn, Conrad Johnson, and a bunch of other people. They even went to Japan. But they made so much money in Rice Stadium that when they left, their pockets were full and their trunks. You know how your car leaned down? The car's trunk was filled with quarters and 50-cent pieces, everything.
Wow.
They made so much money in Rice Stadium with that first, Forrest Brook was in it, first Battle of the Bands.
I want to talk to you about going back to the Astros.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't the Colt 45.
No, they were the Astros.
They were the Astros.
Yeah.
So talk about the embrace of African Americans in baseball at that time. You mentioned quite a few black players.
Oh, and Al Oliver. I mean, I could go on and on.
But I'm saying, were they welcomed in Houston?
They were welcomed. They were welcomed more so, of course, in Black Houston. They spent time in the neighborhood. When they came to town, they ate at the black restaurants in most cases. Many of them ate in the hotels, but they ate in the black restaurants. They went to the black clubs.
Because Houston is in the South, but I'm talking about it ain't like some of these other southern cities.
No, it was integrated overnight. Remember, because of baseball, you had to integrate the hotels. So like it was part of what happened with Reverend Lawson and all that group when Houston was just, they met with the white business people and Houston was just integrated. But you go back, it started with baseball. What was Ernie Banks? The Chicago Cubs played the Astros in the first game here in 1962. What did they stay? The Shamrock Hotel or Rice Hotel in most cases, because they had to stay with their teams. You couldn't separate the team. So this was before the Rockets came here, before when the Oilers were here. The Oilers used to have a roped off system.
What that mean?
Well, black seats. You have in the roped area.
Oh,
they had colored a Negro on the ticket. I know I paid $3 for a ticket and had Negro on it. I wish I had it now. Back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
the tickets cheaper?
$3.
I'm talking about compared to to regular tickets for white folks.
Yeah, no. No, you and see you had.
So you got a discount for being black?
Yeah. Well, you got a discount, but you didn't rope that off everything. They changed it. Like then Jefferson Stadium, Del Mar Stadium. This was before the Astrodome was built, also, and you had the AFL. You heard of the AFL, American Football League. Their All-Star game was scheduled to be played in New Orleans one year, I think about 64 or 5. And they moved the game from New Orleans because going back to what you're talking about, the black players couldn't get cabs to stop for them. Some of the people didn't want to wait on them in restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So they immediately started talking boycotting. Bud Adams stepped in because we had a team here in Houston, stepped in and said, you can move your game to Houston, which they did. Wow. And the rest is history. And I paid $3 to go to that. Nearly got killed, Jeff. Old Jefferson Stadium. I was sitting behind the goalpost and the football, it was an extra point. Looked like the ball had my name on it. And it was coming right to me. and all I remember, I was swamped. Everybody went for the ball. So you had, you think about all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But
You talk about Jefferson Stadium, and
yeah,
I can't help, and you covering younger players and younger
right,
people, and you
yeah,
mentioned one key person, although he wasn't the coach then, Luther Booker. But
yeah,
think about Yates and Wheatley,
yeah, Yates and
and
Willie,
the Turkey Day Classic.
right.
Were you around when they were playing those before they ended?
Yeah, I was. I wasn't covering sports then, of course.
But I
I
just
read
want you
back,
to talk
but
about
I went to
that
the game.
experience.
Yeah, I went to the
And talk
game.
about that
This was
experience, because I
this
was,
going to the game like this. You felt undressed
yeah,
because they came like you. Our people dressed up and came to the game. It was just like when you look
in
at the pictures.
suits
Yeah, stuff. It
and
was just
dressing.
like, and some of us we didn't wear our suits until Sunday. You were not going to wear suits,
Right.
and your mother wasn't going to let you wear a suit to a football game.
Yeah.
So, but people came to the games dressed. The women were dressed. The place was packed. You had one year where a Wheatley queen, if I'm correct, came in a helicopter, thanks to some black doctor over in Dr. Bill, I think, in Third Ward. Flew in, and the place was packed. They were outdrawing the Oilers. They
Wow.
were the only team maybe outdrawing them was Rice when Texas came to town to play Rice.
Hmm.
But they were outdrawing Wheatley and Yates paid. Think about what I'm about to say. That one game paid for all of the athletics of the HISD teams at that time, including the white teams. But the black teams or schools were still getting subpar equipment, equipment that may have been used by the white schools before, that type of thing. But it changed when Joe Tusa came in. Joe Tusa was ahead of his time also, but he realized some. But he grew up, I think, and went to Reagan, which is what the Heights now, whatever. If
Yeah.
I'm correct, one of those schools. But when they integrated, now this was his thinking. He told me, I didn't know him then. He went to several other black schools, and I say, nah, don't, or something along the line, don't get upset. Jackie Carr knows this story. Don't get upset now when you get beat. 'Cause y'all not gonna win. He was talking about basketball also.
Hmm.
And the first three championships or whatever were all won by Wheatley from '67 or '68 or whenever they integrated.
Hmm.
But then you had when they first integrated, you had a Bel Air, no, Cashmere. Yeah, Cashmere played Bel Air over there, if I'm correct. That was on a Friday night in the playoff game. You couldn't get in.
Hmm.
There were so many people everywhere because it was a black school and a white school. Bel Air did win the game. They won that game. But you you created all these. That's when Billy Matthews was coaching. But you created later on all these, going back to what I was telling you about my relationship with these people. So I go on the radio one day and I interview the coach at. This is one of the things that helped turn me around too. I mean, send me in the right direction up. I go over to Booker T. Washington. I interview Coach Bear Bryant and ask him about the game. He said, "We're gonna kick him." So I took that piece of tape and just ran it all that week.
Hmm.
And Yates coach Luther Booker, he not yeah, at that time Booker was conservative,
Hmm.
so he didn't say nothing like that. But they used that tape to motivate their team.
Hmm.
So now that they're playing the game, it's the last play of the game, and the kid come out to kick a field goal for Yates, and you can see Coach Bryant on the other side waving his hand. Oh, he can't,
Yeah, we got this.
He missed. He made the field goal. Coach Bryant missed. The kid made the field goal. When the game was over, he just dropped almost to his knees with his hands on his knees.
Wow.
So you had all that kind of, I mean, like it was impactful.
Wow. So going back to some of the people you've interviewed and places you've been, let's talk about Muhammad Ali. I know
Yeah.
you had a good relationship, great relationship with Muhammad Ali, and that you built. Talk about your introduction to, because he was Sonny Liston then.
No, you mean Cassius Clay?
I mean, excuse me, Cassius Clay then. Thank you. He was Cassius Clay then.
When I met him, he had become Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, to add some more history to forward time, he loved coming here.
Uh-huh.
Coming here into the KCOH.
KCOH,
Yeah, he'd come by and DJ with Skipper Lee, and then he'd roll through here and mess with Mr. Carter and Dahl and the ladies here. So so anyway, and so you know, one of the things about him that I found out, he was very generous. People could come up to him. You could come up to him. I've seen people do. They come up to him and tell him, this is why the people around him got to the point where they wouldn't let him keep money. You come up to him and say, Champ, I want to open a, I never will forget once this guy came up and said he wanted to open a beauty shop and a barber shop. He didn't have no plan. So he said, what you talking about? So it really caught the guy by surprise too.
Yeah.
So he said, what are you talking about? He said, what you mean? What kind of money you talking about? So he said, maybe $3,000 or $4,000. So he reached in his pocket, he had a wad full of money. And he said, here, take this. And then he said, hold it. Let me have a couple of those back. They were all $100 bills. So I can have something to walk around with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was very, very generous like that.
Did you know the guy that asked him for the money?
I got to know him, and
did he eventually open?
He retired about 10 years ago.
So he was able to open that
business.
Wow.
With 3,000, with 3,000 or 4,000, whatever he gave him, he was able to open that business with that and whatever he had.
Wow.
Thanks to Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
And that was in the, I want to say it was over in the Cashmere Garden.
Did he ever forget that?
No.
I'm talking about the guy who.
No, he never forgot.
Wow. I'm sure he used that as a means to
he
promote.
never forgot that. But he was very generous. And he
did Muhammad Ali know the guy?
No.
I'm talking about, did he know about the shop or
no?
Come
he
back
may have went back. I think he may have gone afterwards.
Okay, I'm just
but
that's a great story. That's a great story.
At that time, they didn't even know each other.
Wow.
And so he did things like that. And I'm in Africa with George Foreman, and so I get calls from people back here. They didn't have a phone system like you did here. If you called back to Africa, it took 8 hours. You had to call. You had to program them to let you make your call about 6 to 8 hours before you could actually make the call coming out of there. Mm-hmm. So that's how primitive the phone system was then. Think about what it is. You call these places now like that.
Yeah, real time.
Yeah, but some people wanted to know who was going to win the fight. Who did I think was going to win the fight? So I said, hey, man, how can I, without telling them, I said, how can a guy beat a guy that he loves? I said, mentally, how can a guy beat a guy that he loves? The man put all his money in his pocket, and he says he loves him. How is he going to beat it? Mm-hmm.
Explain.
Which meant that, in my opinion, George Foreman loved Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. And he went out and gave it his best. I mean, he hit him. But mentally, he wasn't really there to kill Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Like he may have killed Joe Frazier and some of these other people before. So that's what I was talking about. Uh-huh. He loved it.
Yeah.
And in the end, many people found out about it as they got older. But they didn't know that love had started a long time ago.
Wow.
In the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In the 70s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you would have been like I was a prince in Africa, right? He was a king.
Yeah.
I was a prince. You would have been somewhere in between.
Oh, wow.
They put a dashiki on you. You see, because when you're 25, 26 years old, so I get out of here, and I'm single, and and I got a nice little piece of money, and I know I'm gonna make some money when I get there, right? Because it's something else I'm doing legally, PR-wise. So I stopped off in Paris for a week, Rome. Mm-hmm. I said, I'd never get back over here at this age. Mm-hmm. If I did get back over there, I'd be another age, and I wouldn't be loose like I am now. Right? So I get to Paris, and see that how small the world is. I had been in my hotel room for about 3 or 4 days. I never left, but so you could tell stories like this. People don't understand what life is about. Mm-hmm. So when I get to, I'm with some people that are going on to Zaire, and they say, "You gonna stop here?" I say, "They say you know somebody?" I said, "No." I say, "I'm gonna get me a cab and I'm gonna go downtown and get me a hotel, right, and stay here for a week and then come to Africa, because we still had plenty of time." So I get in this cab and I asked the cab driver, who spoke a little English, to take me to a Holiday Inn. Mm-hmm. He said, "I got a cousin with a hotel. downtown. So he said, "You want to see it?" I said, "Yeah, they take me down." So it was called, of all things, it's still around. The Hotel Mercedes. You can Google it up. It's in the book. Paris, France, Hotel Mercedes. So that's where he took me. So it was a man there who ran the hotel, like the manager, business, whatever. So he spoke a little English. He spoke good English, but he was French. He put an S on my name, Mr. Coopers. So he said, "Mr. Coopers, we welcome you to stay here." Whatever it was real reasonable, and it was right down. I could see the tower,
Eiffel Tower.
yeah, from the hotel. He said he got and I didn't had never seen these places where you could actually sit outside and eat like they do here
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
They were already over there. Okay, so he said, "We got everything you need, Mr. Coopers." I said, "Everything I need." He said, "Yeah, we got the booze, the dope if you do pot." I said, "I don't do no pot." I said, "I don't smoke." He said, "We got the women." I said, "Now." So sure enough, I said, "Well, I'm." So he had the people. He checked out. So he had the people to call my room around 9 or 10 o'clock that night. So you go there, they everywhere.
Yeah.
The women. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
everywhere. Whatever you
The
want.
women's.
The women's everywhere. All any kind you want.
With an S.
So for about 3 days, I stayed in the hotel until it was Saturday. So I decided to go walking, right? And I get hungry. Then I tell people, in Worthing High School, I could have took French, and I'd have been right at home over there. I took Spanish because I never thought about going that way.
Yeah.
I thought about going to Mexico, so I took Spanish. So I'm downtown. I'm walking towards the tower again, and I get hungry. So I look in this place, and I see a guy who looked like us, right?
Yeah.
And I say, "Well, he looks like maybe he's English or whatever," not knowing that he was French or whatever. So I kind of sat near him. When he heard when he heard me tell the waiter that I didn't speak French, he said something to the way he don't speak French because the waiter couldn't. I don't
understand what
what
you
you're saying.
said.
Yeah, so he said, "Why don't you try the veal chops?" I think that's what. Why don't you hungry? I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why don't you try the veal chops? I'm having them. They're real good." So I said, "Yeah, tell him I want that." And a Coke. He said, "They don't have Coke here, they got Pepsi." So I tell him I want that, bring two up. So I ate and we got to talking. And guess where he was from? He was from Detroit.
Really?
His name was Gene Robinson. He was from Detroit. He came there with a dance group. You know how they had the dance thing back in the day. And he never went. He only went back to Detroit to visit. He had a school. So I found out something else about him as we talked. And so he told me, but you have to have an open mind. And what I'm telling you is some of this stuff I've never told. So anyway, but I have it in a book. But anyway, so anyway, he said, "Look, how much of Paris have you seen?" So I said, "Hey man, I've been in the hotel room. This is my first time out. 3 days and 4 days." He said, "Well, you want to see Paris?" Because it's about now. It's about 11:31, 12 o'clock or so. I say, "Yeah, we can do that." So he said, "Now, how?" He said, "You don't mind seeing Paris with a guy that's gay?" So I said, "As long as the gay guy understand, I like women." He said, he said, "I got a dance school. I'm gonna take you by my dance school." He said, "Ain't nothing there but women."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, we got to go by your dance school before we leave here." So he took me all over Paris, like on the bus, and because he wasn't driving, and we went all of these different churches and historical places.
Yeah.
And then he took me to the school and introduced me to all these women, and I did the Jeffery Boney. I was cooperative. Okay? So anyway, and then
Oh my God.
then he took me. He called his roommate and told him that he had met this guy from Texas, from Houston, from the States, and he wanted to bring him over for dinner if I wanted to go. So I said, "Yeah, I'll go eat with you all." So sure enough, I go over there and I met, they were gay, and you eat with them and everything. Now when I get ready to leave Paris, guess who took me to the airport? Their friend had a car.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So they took me to the airport, or the airport over in Paris, and that's the last time I saw them.
Wow.
But I'm just saying those are the kind of experiences that you have. Then I go to Madrid, and then I go to Rome. I had experiences there too. But when I get on the plane from Rome to go to the fight to Zaire, a Frenchman is already on the plane. He worked with Reuters News Service. You heard of
Reuters,
Reuters? Yeah. So he said, look, he started conversating. He said, you going to the fight, to cover the fight? I said, yeah. He said, you going to be there all that time? Because see, the fight had been postponed. The fight would end up being postponed. So I ended up staying there about 7 weeks or so. So he said, you going to the fight? I said, yeah. So
you didn't have a gig back here, or you were there?
I was at KYK. KYK, I was representing them there.
Okay.
And I had to call them every day from there too when I got
you.
there. But so what happened was he said, when we get to Paris, when we get to Zaire, I want to hang around you. I said, why would you want to hang around me? You just met me. He said, no, I don't want to hang around like that. I said, he said, I want to hang around with you because the women love you guys. He was right. So I said, love us. He said, you haven't seen nothing yet until you get over there. So sure enough, when I got there, now I had an American Express card and a round trip home. I left the States with about $3,000. When I get to Zaire, I'm down to $36. So what I didn't know was, okay, I've been in dictatorships before, but this is the first one where you went to go in. This is why I say traveling is an experience nobody. Everybody should have some experience traveling. Right. So I go to check in, right? I got a passport. I give them the passport and check in. How much money you got? So I said, about $36, $37. No, these Africans. No, you can't come in here. What you mean? So what you gonna be doing? I said, I'm gonna be working for a radio station and doing some work for George Foreman. And see, it was in the middle of the day when we landed, and they were at the workout. So I said, just call them and just give them a name and they'll be all right. They treated me like I was a piece of crap. Mm-hmm. Those Africans mistreated me until they finally got the room and they found out I was really who I was saying I was, and I was with George. They picked my bag. Oh, Mr. They picked my bag up and limoed me over to the
limoed
me to the
game
hotel.
changed.
Yeah, man. So that's the kind of stuff that you experience. See, and you talking about friendship. So I get there, and George and his brother Sonny Foreman, Robert Foreman, and another friend of theirs said, "Where you been?" And I told them, they said, "You had stopped off in Paris." I said, "Yeah, but I went to Rome, and I went to Madrid." I said, "I'll never get back over." I said, "I thought about it. I'll never get back here." Like, they started laughing. So then he said, George said, "Well, I've taken care of everybody else. What do you need?" I said, "Man, when I rode through here, I didn't see nothing. There's no French's chicken, French's there's no French's, no movie theaters. I got 9 meals a day in the hotel. I can take 2 people every time I go to eat with me, and everything is free." So I say $300 or $400 because I ain't nothing here for me to spend some money on. Mm-hmm. So he said, "No, man, I can't do that." I said, "What you mean?" He said, "You represent me. What you gonna look like walking around here in Africa with $300 or $400 of United States money, U.S. money?" So we settled on a nice little number, and because as long as it didn't interfere with what I got back here,
right?
And so you and see, when I first started going to eat, I would take some of the African. I got to be friends with some of the males, and I would take them to eat with me. Mm-hmm. I get a steak, medium well, bottle of wine or something, French fries. They all ordered the same. When I left, make mine a little pink. Mine, they had taken. You helped other people also. Yeah. And I kept Dominoes, and when the training session was over, you get along. You had Dominoes, and I had a refrigerator full of beer, and I have all them guys over, and I wasn't gay. So of course the women came too. But it got to the point where you told them, I know you find this. It got to the point where, where I'm from, you always did your own talking. I didn't need nobody to do no. If they were bringing the word got out. This American at this Hotel Memling, that's the hotel up there. Yeah. It's still around too. I looked it up about a month ago. It's still around. They've refurnished it or renovated it. The hotel MEMLING. I stayed there because I didn't want to be around. I knew what George was like, and I knew what I was like. Mm-hmm. So it was best for me to stay with the other media in this hotel where I had more freedom, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and I got to be friends with Muhammad Ali's daddy, father, Cassius Sr., He'd come over and play dominoes with those guys. Plus, he had a he he was like Ali. He liked to look. You know what I'm talking about? He liked to look at the
Right.
he would say, "Young blood, you got a great eye." So he come and play dominoes, and Ali's mother thought I was the nicest little, quietest little uh, country
Church boy.
church boy. Oh, he's such a nice little fella.
So talk about the fight. Talk about the fight and the whole atmosphere, because all of you see the clips with the Boombaye, Ali, and all that, and how beloved Ali was over there, and just that whole experience.
Well, he became, when they postponed the fight was when they really got to be popular.
How so?
Because he was over there. He had more time to get around now. And after the training sessions, he would run early in the morning. He would run in the restricted areas. They had restricted areas. They didn't want the media people. They told us not to say from where the Forward Times here. You couldn't go past where, say, Herman Park is. The radius around Herman. So you were not supposed to. That's where the natives live. And what happened was, before two British reporters got mugged and robbed, and many people don't want to believe this, but the Africans told me that this happened. So when Mobutu found out about it, he had his right hand man was Bula, who was a little short guy, and they rounded up all the known thieves, and other criminals, and brought them out to the stadium, right, to where the fight was. And when they wouldn't give up who committed those crimes, they took 10 or 20 of them and landed them up under the stadium and wiped them out, killed them. And I didn't believe this until one day, the white guy that I told you about, and some of the Africans I met, they took us over there. They took us to the stadium before the fight. This was the week maybe before the fight or something. And you could see the blood. You could actually see the blood still on the wall, and the bullet holes where they had shot him with M16s. So going back now to the fight, I mean.
So as he's running through the restricted areas and everything.
Well, they loved him. You saw Will Smith.
What made them love him?
They loved him because of the fact he came around them. He was around them. They knew who he was. They got to. So
they were already aware,
but they became more aware of him because of his freedom, of his love of being around them.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid.
No, he wasn't afraid. He'd come around them, kiss them, hug the women, and all that kind of stuff. Hug the girls, taking pictures with the ones that may have had cameras and all that kind of stuff. And he was just around them. And he always was jiving with the men, shadow boxing and that kind of stuff. And that's what happened. I mean, that's how he became so popular there. And also during that free time is when he got to know Veronica Porsche better, who became his next wife. Remember that she wasn't his wife when she came. She was like, they had a Miss Ali and a Miss Foreman. She was Miss Foreman, and another lady named King was Miss Ali. And they were part of the promotional team. So, but now the night of the fight, or the day of the fight, so you never know what you're watching. Mike Pence was the name of the reporter from Reuters. So we go out there early to look at the ring, right? And we see Angelo Dundee out there. And he's got a pair of pliers. And he's unloosening the ropes for the rope-a-dope in the middle of the day. But you had never seen anything like that. So you don't know what we really thought he was tightening the ropes up. Right. But he was really loosening the ropes up for Ali early in the day. That's what a genius he was. And you ask him something, I forgot how we asked him something about what was going on. Oh, just getting ready for the fight tonight or something. He gave one of them little answers, but he was real cordial and friendly about it. But that's the way he was. So now, and Mobutu let everybody, the fight was free. All the people who could get into the fight free. And so you had Africans coming from everywhere, coming to the fight free. That was his gift to his country. But he thought the fight was going to generate people like you coming over as tourists. That's what Don King had put in. This will help your tourism and everything. But see, when you see a sign, when you read what the average income was $74 a month. $74 a month. Now here I am. This is why I was a prince. I'm sitting over in Zaire. I got 9 meals a day, right, in a nice hotel, and I can take 6 people a day to eat with me, and I got a pocket full of money, and the average income is $74 a month. And being a giver, you know how to share that money and make it where some people there got a little blessing while you were there, you know. So it, you know, but going back to see, the world is the Africans took siestas. You didn't know that, did you? They took. I didn't either. First day I'm there, the second day I'm there, I wake up about 10 o'clock to go get some breakfast. I said, "Oh, close. Be back open at 1 o'clock." I say, "What you mean? The hotel, the food, the restaurant is closed?" He said, "We only serve from 6 to 10."
Mm-hmm.
And at that time they shut down. I said, "Well, what are y'all doing?" They said, "Well, resting, taking a break,
Yeah, chilling.
chilling." So you learn a lesson then. Hey, if you want to eat early in the morning, you better get there before 10 o'clock. Otherwise, they're gonna be shut down. And then they open from they open back up around 1 to about 3 or so, and then they shut down again and open up about 6 or 7. Food. Now they had good food though, you know.
Yeah.
So
What is your favorite memory like in doing this? I know you got 50 more years to go, but
no, it was 50 more years ago. The favorite memory of doing this, you got the Willie Mays interviewing Jesse Owens early in the morning. Jesse Owens loved for you to interview him early in the morning. He'd come to the radio station at 6 o'clock. And guess what? You find out he drank coffee and he smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, how could this man run like that? And he's smoking cigarettes.
Right.
He was a teen cigarette. That's why he died of lung cancer. Yeah. So listening to him share stories about what happened in Berlin with the Germans and that type of stuff. And Satchel Paige you interview Satchel Paige, and you ask him 2 or 3 questions. He say, "Hey, young man, I can't tell you exactly how I said it, but he said, "Man, I should have known you before I did my book." He said, "You asked better questions than them blank that I paid to help me do my book." So compliments like that, And then 50 years ago, I didn't. I had the attitude that I remember Coach Provost. He called one day. He said, "I want you to go interview this young lady.
Tennis coach, TSU.
Yeah." He said, "I want you to come interview this young lady who plays on the Virginia Slim tour." I said something like, "Man, this was before Title IX and right around that time." I said, "Man, I don't hardly interview no women." He said, "Look here, blank. I'll come pick you up." So we go out there. So I go out there in the memorial area. And so sure enough, that you see, we've had Zena Garrison, Lori McNeil, and all these different people, Leslie Allen, Katrina Adams, and now we've had Venus and Serena, and now we've got Coco Golf and Madison Keys and all these people, and even a young man, TFO. So at that time, it was only this one black was on the tour. But what was so enlightening about it was you found out how she wasn't Billie Jean King, and she wasn't making the money Billie Jean King made. And you found out how they were traveling. They stayed with families. When they came here, families like in Memorial or River Oaks would let the tennis players of the Virginia Slims, the ones with lesser known ones, stay with them. And, because they didn't have the money to stay at these hotels. And her name was Ann Koger, Koger. Provost knew her from the time she was a little girl. And she became a great tennis coach up in Pennsylvania after her days as a player. And we became real good friends. Thanks to him, thanks to a guy that didn't want to go up. I was about to miss a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm about to miss a real blessing. A real blessing.
Yes.
And then I think about Charlie Sifford, the golfer. So Eddie Watson was a photographer here. So Mr. Shield said, "I want you and Eddie Watson to go out to Bear Creek." I didn't even know what Bear Creek was, so we rode out to Bear Creek to the golf course. It was the Houston Open at the time, about mid-'70s. So I go out there, and I didn't know the rules about interviewing. I remember I'm still getting on the job training. So I go out there, and he had a bad day on the golf course. I found out later. So, but when they said he had a bad day then, it didn't dawn on me what that meant. So I go in the locker room and I walk up to him. He had a cigar in his mouth. So, and he was one of the first blacks on the PGA tour. So I say, Mr. Jeffery, you got time for an interview? Get your black, you know what I did? Who on that? You know, all that kind of stuff. He chewed me out. So I see him about 2 or 3 days. That Sunday when I went back, he apologized. He said, I did some checking. He said, it's amazing how people talk. He said, the cooks in the kitchen, in the restaurant, told me you're a good guy.
Yeah.
You didn't know what you were doing. And that I should give you another chance. And we became good friends. And after that, when he come to town, he called me and I meet him up on OST or wherever, or meet him at some restaurant.
Yeah.
And because we became real good friends.
Well, man, you've done so much, man. We could be here for hours and hours, and I plan to have you back, man, because you have we haven't even gotten to some of these current events and some of these, crazy contracts and stuff, and some of the stuff going on in the world, and nation, and then of course in sports.
But I feel privileged to be on your program. Who you had on in the past?
Man, we've had quite a few people, man.
Give me a name or two.
Congressman Al Green.
Oh my goodness! And you have me on your show? Go ahead. What else you have on your show?
Well, listen, everybody pales in comparison to Ralph Cooper. So we had you on, and this is my true honor and privilege. But you were elected or inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, 2020.
Right. But you know what? The one I was glad to be inducted in that one, but one that two that I'm really proud of. I received the Sam Lacey Award from the National Association of Black Journalists.
Yes.
And Sam Lacey was a reporter that worked until he was 99 years old.
Wow.
And up in the Baltimore area. And to get that award and named after him was big. But also this year, the Texas Black Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I was the second broadcaster or reporter to ever go in to their Hall of Fame, and they've got some great people in it. I went in there with Michael Irvin, Ray Preston, Kurt Thomas, the basketball player, and Leroy Burrell, the coach. I'm very, very proud of those. Proud of that.
You have quite a few honors, man.
Think about it, all from a guy who picked up saw an ad in the Forward Times about that big.
Yeah.
Said reporters wanted.
Yeah.
Who came in, who made the call and showed up and was interviewed and parlayed that in that.
Well, I've had the great privilege to work with you in radio. I've learned so much from you and continue to learn from you, man.
We learn from each other. You're inspirational. See, you younger people keep me going.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I told you, most of the people that I grew up, the press box that I saw 50 years ago, they're gone. And to see people, and it's now to see when I first went to cover the Oilers, the only thing black out there were the players. Now you all in the front office, you're writing checks for these teams, giving money back to the community. It's big.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, man, thank you so much for.
What's the name of the show again?
Real Talk Junkies, always. Real Talk Junkies.
I've been on the Real Talk Junkie show.
Absolutely.
My goodness, I can't. Where's the check? You got a check?
Look,
do I get an autograph or check?
You've been to Zaire. You've been to Zaire with sort of form and an Ali fight. And now you've been on Real Talk Junkies, man. You talk about
it doesn't get any bigger than that.
You talk about a career change.
Can I get an autograph?
Absolutely, man. You get more than that, man. You're gonna get one of the Real Talk Junkies. Don't argue with me books. How about that, Jefferey Boney?
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everybody to share the link. Make sure you, of course, share it. It's gonna be on the YouTube channel. Of course.
I want you to write a book for me. I got another book I want you to write.
I
wrote a book, but I want you to be what's it called?
Ghostwriter?
Whatever. No, you can be written by.
All right.
I want you to we sit down for about 3 or 4 hours and you take that information and write a book.
All right, we're gonna make that happen.
Okay.
We're gonna make that happen. All right. You heard it here first, y'all. Real Talk Junkies, man. I want to encourage.
Huh? Do you work cheap?
No, I don't work cheap.
No,
I work fair though.
I know that. I'm working with you and your wife. I know that.
All right, man. Listen, man. We want to thank y'all for checking out Real Talk Junkies, man. Make sure you share the link. It's going to be up on YouTube. And I want to encourage everybody to check out the show next week. Again, forwardtimes.com. Check out the latest news at the Forward Times and also jeffreylboney.com to pick up the latest book, Don't Argue With Me, a no-nonsense approach to the issues in the Black community. That'll do it, y'all. I'll holler at your piece. Let's go.